So Tideway Scullers School closest to the camera. On the far side, it's Thames Rowing Club A. In fact, it's Tideway Scullers School A crew as well. Semi-final of the Wargrave Challenge Cup.
Attention! Go!
Finally, we get off the start. And no one will be more relieved than those 16 oarswomen and the two coxes powering their way down the Temple Island. The start of the club women's event, a new event this year. Who's your money on for this race?
Well, looking at the form book, I'd actually go with Thames, who beat them at Tideway Scullers. They beat them at the Met. Thames came 4th, Tideway Scullers came 8th, and that's kind of what we look back on. But who knows how the season's gone from then to now? We're almost talking about two and a half months ago, so anything could have happened. But they've got the slip here, half a length over Tideway Scullers, and Thames there in the black. Strong start.
I have to say, for the times to the barrier, if you look at yesterday's race, Thames got there in 2:03 and Tideway Scullers got there in 2:07. So 4 seconds difference. At the moment, there's 2 seconds difference between the race. So those times are projected into today's race. You'd see Thames continuing to move out from Scullers.
Yeah, pretty dominant start there from Thames Rowing Club.
We should really big up Tideway Scullers programme. I mean, it's been revolutionised, hasn't it, with Kieran Clark going there, the former University of London boat club coach, and he has just brought that Scullers women's programme on from strength to strength.
Yeah, it's a slick outfit now, and it's really incredible to see different clubs performing in this high performance level. And I think certainly that's what Kieran's done at Tideway Scullers. And look, the Tideway Scullers are littered across events at the moment. They've had an incredible regatta, and they're right there being competitive. And I think that's all credit to them, and I mean probably to them, their committee, and the rest of their members there. You've got the absolute stalwarts, Alan Campbell, Tideway Scullers. I rode with the very successful rower Tash Howard for Tideway Scullers, so they've always had a few people around, but now it's across the board in big boats, and it's great to see.
So the Tideway Scullers crew, you're looking at the back of the bow on the left of your picture. Carter Nelson, 21 years of age. Olivia von Stauffenberg, you've heard us talk about her going off to Duke. Katie Vitale, Helena Barton, Marie Grant, Lily Abbott, Kate Wagstaff, Catherine Garrett, the American in the stroke seat, coxed by Antonia Stuter. And you've pointed something out in the Thames crew, Jess.
Yeah, we have a rowing family favourite here. Izzy Cassidy in the 7th seat of the Thames A is Adrian Cassidy and Sharon Cassidy's daughter. So they've got a whole tribe of children. They're rowing across different boats, and they're going off to row, I should say, at Cal when they're not COVIDed out of being in America. So it's really cool to see these students that have been at university and meant to be going to university, but they get the opportunity to be here in the club events.
Yeah, Adrian Cassidy, a colleague of ours in the Henley commentary box, doing a great job. And again, we should talk of Sander Smulders, the Dutch former international for the Dutch rowing team, now lead coach at Thames Rowing Club, and who will have been working with these women, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. Sander coaches the women's squad primarily, actually. So this is a lot of his work you're seeing right here. And what you should also think about is the depth he's created at Thames Rowing Club. There's 3 Thames 8s here. There's multiple boats and doing very well as well. They're not here as cannon fodder. The boats are up here being competitive, and I think that's a credit to the system. You can't really get around the Putney Loop without knocking into a Thames crew, so they're a big club, and they're doing very good stuff at the moment.
Natalie Kerman, the 32-year-old cox, intent on her work, just crouched down, hands lightly holding the rudder strings, just the gentlest feather-like touch on the rudder if it's needed. These breezes across the Henley Reach. Scullers hanging in there on the left of your picture with the distinctive red and yellow blades.
They absolutely are. And you know what? They've not dropped that much pace from when we saw Thames and pulled out to a length by just about the quarter-mile mark. Scullers haven't slowed down much, and they're staying in this race. They're doing themselves proud. Can they claw it back now through Remenham? This is a really key point of the race to either hold on or move on that crew in front of you.
The Scullers A had a close race against their B crew yesterday, which leads you to think, you know, about the depth of talent you were talking about in terms of women's club rowing. And it's not easy for Scullers, is it? Because they've got high-performance centres near them, with Molesey in one sense and with University of London in another sense, you know, to attract women down, which, you know, they do because they like to sort of give them a thorough grounding in sculling. And, you know, if you can scull and learn to scull, then, you know, the world's your oyster, really.
Yeah, they do a lot of really good learn to row kind of programs. And actually, Kieran's introduced a program where you can come along from any club and learn to scull a bit more. Exactly what you're saying, Martin. There's not many people that offer that. So they've kind of single-handedly, them and Thames and maybe UL have certainly raised the standard of that along the Tideway, along the River Thames.
So the bowwoman, Lucy Bale, closest to us, going down the boat, Ruth Taylor, Amy Gibson, Charlotte Davis in 4, just going past Cheryl Colotti, Olivia Rogerson, Izzy Casting, we've spoken about her already, Jess Eastwood in the stroke seat, and Natalie Kerman, the Cox. And there is Antonia Suter in Dayglow Yellow. Giving encouragement to a crew. It's not all in vain, they have kept contact. Just see those Scullers women rowing with those carbon rigger. They're very stiff, those carbon riggers. Do you prefer the carbon riggers or the sort of metal ones that the Thames Rowing Club are using, Jess?
Yeah, we had carbon ones in our boat in Rio. I think it's a bit thinner, but the way it's distributed slightly differently. And now you get the carbon wing from coming behind you as well. So you see that if you watch the Olympics, we'll see boats have that carbon sweeping rig coming behind you, and you have nothing in front of you. Which I think is also quite nice to row in. Most of the singles now are reverse riggers. You'll see that a lot.
So there's those metal riggers that we were talking about. The Thames Rowing Club A crew are using. And this is a wonderful pageant of women's rowing. You know, it's always been strong, but it's getting so much stronger. And, you know, Henley is becoming a celebration of women's rowing, which is kind of right and proper.
These rowers are going to relish the opportunity to, you know, someone's going to get their name engraved on that trophy for the very first time tomorrow, and that is an opportunity that none of them want to pass up, and they want to be there writing history.
The women from Thames Rowing Club A crew take this semi-final of the Wargrave Challenge Cup from their opponents, Tideway Scullers School. Relatively emphatic margin.